All right. Hello, everyone. We're in ISSS Education Meeting 14 on April 13th, 23. So there are a few topics that we can explore. We can touch in with the kind of open activities, like looking at the system census, seeing how it's gone so far. Shingai and George are here, so we can talk about that work. And then we can also kind of preview / give feedback to the events next week, which will be kind of coming from the knowledge engineering side, but they're going to be about language models. And I think we'll have a heavy educational element. So, kind of sitting in the intersection between the projects of education and knowledge engineering, because while the corpus curating and archiving and so on is the purview of knowledge engineering, in education we've been having discussions more about like how we would use the ISSS archives and so on. So George and Shingai, do you want to start with any like thoughts or updates?
Yeah, sure. I am happy to give an update on some of the education stuff. George, did you have anything to say first or any questions?
No, go ahead.
Okay, great. So just I will just quickly share my latest thinking on the education initiative that we're working on. Daniel, can I share my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, so this is just like at a very high level how I'm thinking about this course that we're doing, a sort of a introductory system science online course. So something that I am working on a personal level is a newsletter called Systems Explorers, where I will be publishing one blog post per week on system science. And after a couple of introductory posts, I'm going to go straight into George's 12 principles of system science, basically introducing one principle per week. I wrote a really long essay about the principles, focused on crypto networks last year, and it was received pretty well. But yeah, it was a lot to take in. It was very lengthy and in-depth, and I had a lot of people asking me for a more simplified breakdown of the principles applied in different settings. So that's what I'm going to try to provide for this newsletter. And my thinking is that work could be really great for providing content for slides on each of the principles, facilitating discussion. So I really can see that work that I'm doing feeding directly into educational content for slide decks that are focused on each of the principles. So I would love to have discussions with you, George, with Daniel. I had Jan Borda reach out to me, and we've been chatting on email, and she seems very interested. So would love to have a small group of people that can sort of, yeah, talk about the principles, talk about the posts that I write, and work in collaboration to transform the blog posts into slide decks based on, hopefully feedback from readers and all that stuff. I feel like beyond the slide decks, I don't have a strong sense for how we would want to approach other aspects of the curriculum. So George, would love your thoughts on that. Gonna look at Freetoff Capra's course, see if there's any insights I can glean. As far as who wants to be involved, really curious who wants to be deeply involved, aside from you, George, and potentially Jan. And then as far as funding goes, since this is my first time doing anything like this, I don't have a sense for sort of like the minimum funding we would need to really get this off the ground. So that's another area where I just want to have conversations. So again, very high level thinking here, but I feel like short term, I'm about to hit the ground running with doing a deep dive into these principles. And I think that could be good fodder for slide decks based off of the principles. And that's kind of where I'm at this moment.
Thank you, Shingai. That's awesome.
Yep.
George, want to give any first thoughts, and then we can continue.
No, that, pardon me, that, sorry. No, that looks great. As far as slide decks, I did have a fleeting thought. So what I think we need to think about is not just the fact that there would be slides involved, but rather what what the conveyance vehicle looks like. So is this be webinars? How exactly do you see it, Shanghai, in terms of what that format looks like?
Yeah, a really good question. Um, I feel, let's see, Daniel, are you familiar with the educational content that like CAD put together for their intro to CAD and some of the stuff in token engineering?
Yes,
Yeah, so
I
I'd say
took
that
that.
style. Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but that style where it's I don't know if you can describe it, but yeah.
This was a educational. It was a staged, not dissimilar from like an HR training, though that kind of, but something with like a. I mean, is that fair to say? There was short videos
Yep,
and a
short
presentation
video,
format.
exactly, along with exercises and homework assignments built in. I'll see if I can log in quickly.
CAD's a systems modeling simulation suite that we're working with, and also like Zargum and the group of CAD are very interested in systems, generalized dynamical systems. So that they're hopefully will be willing to maybe let you know, Shingai, about what platform they used and everything.
Amazing. And yeah, I can share my screen quickly if we
Yeah.
want. Cool, awesome, share screen. Okay, so yeah, I took this course at the beginning of 2020, I want to say. And yeah, it was really well done introduction to doing systems modeling for someone who had no experience in that area. So this is sort of the main screen. We have an overview of the different sections, the introduction, setting up your programming environment, crash course on Python, and then diving into CAD. So if I go in and click on one of these videos, let's go welcome to CAD, section 4.1, and it opens up and we have a video that we can watch. Table of contents here on the left with all the different sections. And there are, yeah, sort of these cheat sheets that are embedded within the interface, notes, and a lot of good stuff. So something like this would be incredible. And I'll look into the exact software that they used.
Yeah, that's good. I'm also curious, like how much how much work that is on the educator to kind of load the information. That format could be simple, could be complex. The simplest format of all is the live stream, the one take, just get the video out there. So, but of course it all depends on your bigger strategy. And so let's continue to check in. Anything else on it, Shingai or Carl or Janice, want to give any thoughts on it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, as I had mentioned several weeks ago, I mean, I've done a lot of work with PowerPoint, and there's ways to really make it much more interactive and things. So I'm sorry I was late, and it's just been insane. We're doing a renovation of the house among about a dozen other things. But yeah, if there's a presentation I could work, and that's probably would be the easiest way for me to just do a quick it, a quick thing to show you. Basically, it ends up almost being like a dynamic table of contents and things. So you can, by design, you have a interactive presentation. and stuff. So, and it's yeah, it was interesting because I had developed one for work, and one of my colleagues who's blind, I mean, he just was like, wow, this is possible, because it's like his nightmare is he gets an email and he opens it up and it's like PowerPoint and it's like slide 1 of 62. He just wants to completely ignore it. So yeah, so as I said, well, I wasn't sure because I know you were working on one, but if you've got one, I can kind of take it and do a show you how show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm going to paste a link to the we're using Notion to organize all the content in the slide decks. So I'm going to
Okay.
into the chat, and then I'm going to I need to add your email to give you access. There you go. And so yeah, we'd love to have you take a look at the slides we have so far in there. They're in the curriculum section. Can you paste your email address in the chat really quickly?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
You know, back to on that CAD format, mentioning videos, one of the things I've often thought is how much I would love to see some of the diagrams that I've got in the books, you know, the circles and arrows and all this kind of stuff, animated, actually turned into with somebody talking over, saying, you know, these are inputs, and then show these arrows, these various arrows coming into the system of interest, and these are outputs and so on. But basically, try to enliven it a little bit, rather than just present a flat diagram. Actually, have it live a little bit in the sense. And anyway, that's something I guess we could look into. I don't know anybody who does that kind of thing, but Carl's talk about this interactive sort of reminded me that that would be kind of fun to do. I've done in PowerPoint, I've done the thing where you bring in an item. You know what I'm talking about? It's not really animation. It's just all of a sudden the new thing is there. They've got little ways of bringing it in from the side or fading in or something like that, but it's still not quite doesn't quite have the impact of an animation where you see, for example, when you're talking about input flows or any kind of flow, you're looking at something actually moving through this broader arrow. So that's another thing I've thought would really help convey some of the ideas a little more.
That sounds good. Potentially even on a freelancing, like I know that there are science illustrators. And I like the idea of taking the figures and then just progressively like bringing the pieces in instead of just like some other, like a video of an ocean, which doesn't like share that, but actually just resulting in what is in the textbook, so that it kind of like builds towards the final representation, because it might be a lot to see at once. So yeah, Shinga, I guess just keep that thought or be aware of which figures you put in where that could apply to, and then maybe we could write up a specification for we're looking for these 3 images to be animated this way, and then just ask a few scientific illustrators and see what the cost is. Okay. Any other thoughts on it, or we'll carry on?
One last thing that I had in mind. I'm going to try and see if I can contact the publisher at Springer. Now, there's been a shakeup there. They've changed divisions, and there's been a couple of other things going. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a hold of the same people that I worked with, but to find out from them if they would be interested in sponsoring a course site, if in fact the course is based on that textbook. then there's a possibility that they might be willing to kick in some bucks. Or maybe we do a joint thing with the ISSS and Springer. So I will investigate that, but like I say, there's been this reorganization at Springer, so I don't know what I'm going to find there.
Great. Thank you.
And then I haven't had a chance to dive into it yet, but well, I'm one of the first customers of the Brain. I've been using it since 1998, and they've revamped the web interface now, so that's Vulkan, so the mind meld stuff. But I haven't had a chance to look at it. But I know Peter and Mark had developed several brains for ISSS too, so that's another area that I can do some prototyping for. As I've had lots of ideas about how basically creating like the Brain companion to books too, so I could take a little bit of a stab at that.
One area that would really be helpful in, I've been on this crusade to try to get people in these various systems organizations or systems related organizations to start thinking in terms of an integrated whole, the system dynamics and network theory and cybernetics and all of these different things really go together. And they have to have some sort of natural interconnection. So if you're talking about, for example, systems dynamics, and you're talking really about a network of processes that interact with one another, and so making a natural transition from systems dynamics to network theory. For example, in a brain, that's exactly what the Brain does, is make all of these various interconnections between concepts, and having a map whereby you can flow from one to another in an interactive way, Carl.
Yeah, and I also have several Team Brain licenses that I can make available too, so we could actually get into some collaborative developing it too. So I need to do that because it's like I paid for it and stuff. Things will be renewing and be time to renew in July. So I'd like to really be able to get some kind of project out, at least kick the tires a little bit, see what's possible.
Cool. Yes. I mean, this
So-
kind of harmonization across different people's topics and the would be excellent if you want to just template what it looks like for the Brain, then we can kind of bring all these pieces together. And also it's not exactly this education group, but I think using formal systems ontologies and being able to compare, for example, Janos's work and George's work, and being able to map sophisticated, often bespoke systems ontologies is like kind of an ultimate research project. A little bit hard to get the journey begun there, but we can start the work by making sure that the things that people do want to have integrated in such a way that we have the resources. So we have, of course, several books / papers from various people. And an early, more syntactic step is just ensuring that we can access the materials. And then we can move on through term and topic analysis to develop more formal structured ways, because a purely associative mind map is actually a very limited utility, because there might be an open-ended number of edges of all different kinds. So having some more formal structuring of edge types, and this is something that like we work on in a few areas. So there might be some coda tools or some other ways. But first we need to like lock in the material, not finalize it, but just make sure that the materials that people want to have included in such efforts get progressively compiled. And then this avenue is just going to get more and more salient. And eventually the one or few people who have the energy to do that kind of a formal systems ontology mapping will be doing a great synthesis service. And it could happen through the brain, or, you know, whatever tools are used by that group that decides to commit to take that approach.
Yeah, because besides Bill Smith, another one of my primary mentors have been Doug Engelbart. He has the whole idea of augmenting human intellectual capabilities and things. So it's my core augmentation system is the brain and the getting things done method and things. So and then it's like, so I guess it's like my augmentation system meet your augmentation system, and trying to build things up.
Yes. Okay.
They,
Janos, please.
There is quite a significant problem with this current system thinking, and the thing is that the current approaches are all mostly, there is, with all due respect, there is a lot of speculation, and the more concrete methods like VSM and SSM and systems dynamics, these have been in existence for a very long time. And in innovation and innovative thinking is required, and to do this is to introduce innovation. We have to admit or recognize that the systems ideas or the systems approach is an empirical exercise. We can observe the structural properties or the structure of entities or parts of the world, and this kind of approach is required. So there is a system theory that explores this different approach, an alternative approach, and which are, as my research is about. And my problem is that and nobody seems to be interested to look at this approach, and subjected to a peer review. I've been publishing quite a lot of things, and would be prepared to introduce this. And I noticed, for example, that there is a language models that you seem to be talking about, and my modeling is called linguistic modeling, which uses process natural language as the structural properties that introduces this approach. And if there is a presentation or something similar is required, then I could forward to Daniel papers that might be interesting to look at and evaluate if it's worth looking at it. So this is my, if you like, an offer to contribute. And apart from that, there is quite a number of remarks that I'd like to make, but I don't want to waste any more time. So I just shut up for the moment. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that unfortunately my hearing is not as good as it used to be, so I find it extremely difficult to follow conversation. So I apologize for that, but it's due to old age. I can't help it. But that's why I prefer writing emails and presentations. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janice. Everything, I'm always happy to email. And everything that you send, I will be able to include in the project. So send me bibliographies, send me all links, and like, it's hard enough to get somebody to give a half-hearted peer review of a tweet. So the level of sophistication that many of you deserve with the real evaluation and discoverability, it doesn't surprise me that few people have stepped up to the challenge. So what I hope we can do in this project is prepare that work with a table of resources for each of these system scientists and others. Prepare the work, specify the tasks, and then build the teams so that when somebody has that attention, the task is there, the opportunity is made clear, and the relevance is already prepared. So I want to help you in that journey. And the best way is email. And I'll make sure everything comes into here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. Like systemese, linguistic modeling, maybe these are overlapping. Maybe they're special cases of one another. They might be two perspectives on the same underlying object. And then now, with increased attention to language modeling, system science has something to say. And so how do we actually convey that and provide this alternative way of thinking instead of just more parameters, more training data? How are we going to provide something that's fundamentally different so that systems isn't only a historical or descriptive science, but systems is used in the empirical fashion? And for it to be anything other than speculative, it has to be grounded in the actual system science, which George has highlighted many times.
Yeah, I was going to say that I don't know, Jonas, if you have read, I thought I sent you a copy of the chapter in the system science theory book on language and how actually linguistic and mathematic and visual sort of iconic representations can be seen as equivalent in the systems framework. Did you ever take a look at that?
I don't think I have received anything from you.
Well, it's been quite a while. I think I sent it to you. Yeah, it's been a while. It was before the book was actually published. But
I'm sorry, but I don't recall receiving any papers from you. You made a comment on an announcement or whatever it is that I put up on the academia thing. That was and I replied to that. But
yeah,
apart from that, I don't recall anything else from you. And
well, I'll try to send you another copy of it.
yeah,
But
thank
the
you very
argument
much.
in that chapter is that these various modalities of communication have equivalencies. If we focus on the systemese aspect of language, that what's being conveyed, say, in a diagram, a system diagram versus a mathematical framework and so forth, these are all fairly equivalent ways of communicating the same ideas.
But the idea is that mathematics is, in my opinion, is the language of the physical sciences, and the systems approach, if you like, or system thinking needs a wider model, which is process natural language, which can take into account emotional, power-driven people, agents, and human activity situations, which mathematics is not really suitable. And a number of people attempted to generate general systems theory, like George Clerk, for example, based on set theory, which hasn't been accepted widely, because it's mathematics is not really. It is necessary sometimes when and the linguistic modeling will or can bring in mathematics and other knowledge that is required. So
just in our last like 8 minutes for today, I want to continue the discussion, and I just think please provide all the resources and we'll work to compile it and actually make this happen in a way that's not just linear alternating conversation. It needs to be synchronously comprehended to really make this evaluative rather than rhetorical. And without shared knowledge and ontologies, even just topical alignment, things are just alternating speech. And then no one has the time to read every single book. And so we stay on the ground floor because it's just linear alternation of highly, highly fragmented attention. So I'm preferring to just compile every resource that somebody feels their perspective is informed by, or the traces that it's been left. And then at least the magnitude and the scope of the work will be understandable. But it's not a real-time persuasion setting with what it means to generate general system science and theory. But these are the energies that I think we can put to use in these projects to really do that. So just because I have to go in 5 minutes. So just want to kind of check back with basically the two other pieces. So one, the system census, we are up to 10 respondents. And so this is what the front end looks like. The survey, and then people can look through a table view or look through a card view. look at more of like a Rolodex view, and then we have different sub views for different languages or for other kind of specified subsets of these programs. So low effort kind of continues in the background, and it remains possible for us to like do more outreach and to verify and improve the pipeline for keeping that census updated and accurate. And then the other piece to just look at is next week, when we'll have that language models and ISSS. And I'll just mention what I will likely do in the session, which will be interactive. And then if anybody has any closing thoughts on what might be cool. So first, I'm going to say what it's not. It's not going to be a technological analysis of what transformer type machine learning is. It's not going to be ethical or strategic analysis of why and when and how, but I'll provide some resources that go into those topics. I will show some tools ranging from the ChatGPT that people are very familiar with to a variety of other tools that often address people's prima facie critiques, like people who say that, well, it doesn't provide resources or website links. Well, there are websites that do that. So talk about some of the tools, and then upcoming tools as well. Then look over to the work done with Rob at the SCA and talk about how we now have the titles of all ISSS yearbooks presentations, for example. So here's like 1959, here's what was in the yearbook. And so eventually we hope to have many collections, the full text available for members or for public, and so on. But already we have explored some interesting prompts involving bringing in a lot of the titles and so on. Yeah, then just kind of continue the discussion from there with who is interested about how we could use modern techniques in conjunction with the ISSS corpus to increase the accessibility and discoverability of system science. Is there anything that somebody would like add to that, or another piece that they would think about being interesting in such a session?
Just on a very, very brief thought that what we teach in any kind of school or courses is symbolic structures or models. And it is the kind of teachability of models that needs to be explored. And there is a lack of systems teaching because there is no suitable models to be taught when you compare it with physics and mathematics and other branches of knowledge, which are based on models that can be taught at school level. And this is a problem that needs to be looked at, the kind of models that are suitable or not suitable for teaching purposes. That's it. I shut up now. So sorry for being a nuisance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else have any kind of closing thoughts?
I'm good.
Cool. Well, then next week we will see what happens with these language models and try to bring some new people who might have interest in education or knowledge engineering. This is something specific where people can be helpful and also learn. And then in 2 weeks, we'll return to this education session and see where we're at with Shinkai and George and with anything else that arises between now and then. All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
fellows.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you next time.